Now, children, getting into a place is one thing. Staying alive once you've done, it is usually the more difficult half of the conversation. The boy made the jump. Not gracefully, not heroically. He came in hard, with the last of the suit's power burning itself away in service of one final burst of speed. By the time he hit the mine entrance, the armor had already begun dying around him. Whatever strength it had given him on the sprint was spent. Whatever protection it had left was now mostly habit and metal. He landed badly, hit stone, slid across old dust and broken grit, and came to rest half in shadow, half in the weak light spilling through the entrance. The helmet display told the story without pity. Battery reserves, 0. Mobility assist, offline. Primary acceleration systems, unavailable. Internal power, emergency reserve only. Suit weight compensation, gone. And there, children, is where courage stops looking cinematic and starts looking heavy. Because the suit that had made him look like a machine out on the battlefield was now just that, a machine. Dead weight wrapped around a small human body that had already spent more than it should have. He did not get up. He could not have, not quickly. So he rolled, dragged himself forward, and found the old rail line that disappeared from the entrance deeper into the mine. The tracks were half buried in dust, crooked in places and slick with the grime of years, but they were still a path. And at that moment, any path was mercy. He crawled on his belly, backpack scraping, cloak catching, gloved hands pulling him forward one rail tie at a time. Outside, the battlefield still existed. The drones still circled. The distant machines still tested the edges of the truce, with all the warmth and maturity of rival gods sulking over a locked door. But inside the mine, the danger changed shape. No more tracer fire, no more turret salvos. Now it was darkness, bad air, spent batteries, and the small humiliations of dragging your own armored carcass forward because you were too stubborn to die where someone else could see you. After a short crawl, the passage opened into the first chamber. Not grand, not beautiful, just a roughly square room at the beginning of the old mine, lit faintly by what little daylight still leaked in behind him. Dust sat thick over everything. The air was stale. The walls carried the look of age, neglect, and old work interrupted long ago. This was where he could stop, and stopping in that moment felt very close to salvation. He shrugged off the backpack, opened it, and started working. No ceremony, no complaint, just the efficient ritual of a person who has done too much dangerous nonsense to waste time feeling dramatic afterward. Fresh battery packs came out. Dead ones came off the suit. Power couplings clicked into place one by one. His hands moved quickly, not because he was calm, but because he understood exactly how vulnerable he was until the system came back online. The HUD flickered, then steadied. Core systems available. Reserve power stable. Suit integrity check in progress. The lights inside the helmet brightened a little. Diagnostics spread across the display. Internal pressure stabilized. Environmental readings sharpened. He was not at full strength, not even close, but he was alive again in the way that mattered most to a person wearing a machine. And then, because he was where he was, he did what he always did next. He reached for the drone. Now this little machine had already earned more loyalty than most things its size ever do. It had gone out with him. It had helped him survive the approach. It had been recalled when logic suggested abandoning it. And now, here inside the mine, it became what it was always meant to be again. His eyes where his body had no business going first. He released it. The drone rose with a faint mechanical whir, lifted from his hand, and turned to face him for a moment. And that, children, is when we get one of those little truths that a person rarely sees about himself until a machine or a mirror forces the issue. Through the drone's view, we see him properly. The sand-colored overcloak that helped hide him outside was no longer just dusty. It was torn through in places, punched with bullet holes, scored and shredded from all the fire he had outrun by a margin thinner than comfort had any right to be. The cloak looked like a promise that had only barely been kept. Under it, the suit itself had taken hits too. Nothing catastrophic, nothing fatal, but enough to leave marks, dents, abrasions, and warning lights on the armor diagram inside the HUD. Suit condition appeared in clean little indicators. Minor impact damage, localized abrasion, outer layer penetrations, cloak only, primary structure intact. He exhaled slowly. That would do. Then the helmet reminded him of another problem. Air quality substandard. Respiratory risk elevated. Rebreather recommended. Of course it was. The mine air was not made for comfort. Maybe once, long ago, man had worked down here with systems to make breathing less of a negotiation. Now, what remained was old dust, trapped gases, stale currents, and whatever else the mountain had decided to keep to itself. He enabled the rebreather. He adjusted the suit temperature down, reduced comfort thresholds, dimmed non-essential light output, set power management for conservation without crippling the systems he still needed. That was one of the subtle differences between a child and a survivor. By the way, a child wants things to feel better. A survivor asks which discomfort is cheapest. Then he asked for the map. The drone had already begun sending back live terrain data from beyond the chamber. The helmet assembled it into a three-dimensional rendering. Corridors, shafts, supports, old track lines, work areas, branching routes, and deeper sections of the mine stretching farther than any abandoned ruin had a right to remain coherent. And that was the first moment, really, when the audience should understand something important. This place was not dead. Not completely. He had found that out before on his earlier visit, and what he found had changed him. The mine had not simply been a tomb full of broken machines. It had been an opportunity, a hidden world, a broken system waiting for hands clever enough and stubborn enough to push it back toward life. Now, looking at the map again, he could see the same thing we are meant to see. Someone had been busy, passages marked as cleared, work zones illuminated, functional sectors, moving units. It did not look like a ruin. It looked like a place trying to become itself again. So he started deeper. The first tunnels were narrow enough to make a person think unpleasant thoughts about being buried alive, which is how you know they were honest mining tunnels. Broken timbers leaned against the walls where older supports had failed or been damaged. Dust still drifted through the air in lazy curtains. In places, he had to duck. In others, he had to climb over rubble the drone had floated past with insulting ease. The drone went ahead, feeding him its view and building the map as it moved. At first, the route seemed passable. Then the warning came. The drone reached a section where the passage narrowed under fresh collapsed debris. Small fragments still fell from above. Dust was thick enough to blur detail. Visibility dropped. The little machine hesitated. Unsafe for drone passage. Route unstable. Forward progress not recommended. And just then he heard it. A sound from deeper in the mine. Not clear, not close, but distinct. A mechanical sound somewhere beyond the blocked section. Proof that activity continued. That something ahead was still operating, still moving, still waiting. So of course he kept going. That is the trouble with him, children. Once uncertainty starts making noise, he wants to walk directly toward it. He called the drone back and moved into the unstable section himself. Visibility was poor. Dust kept falling. Pebbles bounced off the suit. Sometimes larger chunks rattled down hard enough to make the whole corridor feel argumentative. He had to reach out with one hand against the wall and trust the live map with the other eye. Half walking, half climbing through a space too uncertain to deserve confidence. Nothing in that passage was gracefully dangerous. It was ordinary dangerous. The kind where footing fails. The kind where timber cracks. The kind where a person slips on shifting stone, bangs a shoulder, catches himself, and keeps going because there is no useful audience for failure. The deeper he pushed, the louder the distant mechanical sound became. Then, through the dust and weak light, he saw a glint. Silver. Small. Wrong. He stopped. Looked again. There, half buried against the wall beneath fallen rock, was part of a machine casing catching what little light there was. He moved toward it, brushed away dirt, found the arm, then the chassis, then the whole shape of it. 6, he said, and that one word tells you a lot, doesn't it? Because he did not say unit. He did not say robot. He said the name. He dug more urgently then, pulling rock and debris away until he could see what had happened. 6 had been pinned against the wall by a fallen boulder and collapsed debris. The little machine had shut itself down to preserve power, which was clever and efficient and, from the human point of view, deeply unsettling. There is something unpleasant about seeing something familiar lying still and quiet in the dirt, even when you know it does not breathe. He tried brute force first. That failed, not because he was weak, because battery power was still too precious to spend foolishly. and the stone had no interest in being impressed. So he did what human beings do when they cannot overpower a problem. He cheated. A broken support timber lay nearby. He pulled it free, jammed it beneath the rock, found a usable angle, and turned the whole thing into a lever. Now, children, civilization is built on 3 great human discoveries: fire, the wheel, and the realization that if a thing is too heavy, you should stop lifting it like an idiot and go find a stick. He pushed, the timber bent, the rock shifted, once, then more. Enough. 6 jerked faintly as the pressure came off. Lights blinked back to life. Small displays on the robot's body flickered. A few systems woke in sequence, as if the machine itself were returning from some tight little mechanical death. "Can you move?" he asked. "Yes," 6 said. "Well, there is a comforting phrase if ever there was one." He helped pull the little robot fully free, brushed some of the dirt away with quicker hands than the situation strictly required, and guided him back toward the last wider safe point where the drone had stopped. There, with the dust thinning slightly and the corridor no longer trying to collapse directly on their heads, he asked the question that mattered. "Status?" 6 answered as 6 always did, directly without wasting syllables on emotion. "Minimal damage. Repairable." Then the more important part. The river team was still functioning. That was good. The mining team was not. They were cut off behind a broken section of tunnel. Communication had been lost. No usable status had been obtained. Now that, children, is the sort of report that enters a person through the ears and goes directly to the list of problems he will blame himself for later. The operator nodded once, processing. Then his mind did what his mind always does. It turned worry into assignment. He instructed 6 to update the maps with the latest local conditions. He handed over supplies, spent batteries he no longer needed immediately, other components, anything 6 could carry back and use. He also gave him the reconnaissance drone, because the work of the mine did not stop simply because he had changed targets. "Refill these," he told him, "then meet me at the river site." 6 accepted the supplies, accepted the drone, accepted the order, and then the 2 of them faced different directions in the dark. The operator toward the deeper problem, 6 toward the work that would keep the rest of the mine alive. That is how it happens, you see. A place becomes yours slowly, then all at once. At the entrance, this was a hole in the ground. By the time he freed 6, it was something else. Not just a mine, not just a hideout, not even just a project. It was a system full of responsibilities. And the boy, whether he meant to or not, had already decided it was his.